Last time on the WizardCast.
Hey, Mike, thanks for offering to be the WizardCast's intern for the... Hey, Mike. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mark. Sorry, I'm just a bit distracted.
I see that. What's with the headphones?
Oh, just listening to parts of the WizardCast.
Parts? Which parts? Just my parts? My bits, right? They're the best bits.
The sponsor spots.
Oh. You mean the fake sponsor spots. Why are you just listening to sponsor spots?
You'll think I'm crazy.
Well, we're all a bit crazy here, so no judgments. What's up? Come on.
Well, I figured out that Brian has been sending secret messages out inside the fake sponsor messages.
Okay. No, yeah, that is crazy. Yeah.
No, it's true. I've almost decoded one of the messages.
Mike. Oh, Mike. Dear, sweet Mike. Brian doesn't even write the sponsor spots.
Attack at dawn. Wait, who writes them?
I do. I gotta figure out a way to convince Brian to hire dumber interns.
And now the conclusion of the WizardCast.
I'm Brian Kwong.
And I'm Mark Ross.
We're Salesforce experts that love talking about technology and Salesforce.
We also love humor. Doesn't mean we're actually good at it.
In the Salesforce community, I'm known as the Salesforce Wizard, likely due to me wearing a wizard hat at Salesforce events.
And I'm known as Salesforce Yoda for pretty much the same reason.
You should see the ears.
We have a passion to help educate and entertain people.
So we've joined forces to create WizardCast.
We've got tips and best practices.
We talk with interesting people.
All mixed with quote-unquote jokes and humor.
Welcome
to the
WizardCast. A horse walks into a bar. The bartender asks the horse if it's an alcoholic, considering all the bars he frequents, to which the horse replies, "I think not," and poof, the horse disappears. Now, this is the point in time where all the philosophy students in the audience will begin to giggle as they're familiar with the philosophical proposition of, I think, therefore I am. But to explain the concept beforehand, we'll be putting the cart before the horse. Well, it's time to thank the sponsors that make this episode possible. This episode is brought to you by the people who make the product that everyone must have. You and I both know it as something that no one can live without. So stop by your nearest and pick up some extra you know you want to.
Brian?
Huh?
What?
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 Mark, you're very familiar with this. You use all the time. What is our sponsor for today?
What on earth are you talking about?
What do you mean, what are we talking about? Don't you use I can see it right in the camera right now. You use it all the time.
I think I'm actually losing my mind. I think he's actually driven me insane. I have some sort of dysphagia now, and everything's starting to go black around the edges. And I just don't even...
Yeah, now you're getting it.
Talk about things!
So Mark.
It's been a while
Yeah.
since we've done
Anything?
an episode at all. Yeah, no, but I meant a flow episode.
Well, yeah. Well, I would blame both the bugs that we have been inhabiting our households, as well as Jillian Bruce for making us do a webinar on Intro to Flow.
By bugs, he means germs, not literal bugs.
It is springtime, so it could have been a bug that gave me the germ.
That's true. Have you been inhaling fleas again? You've been snorting fleas?
Maybe in my sleep.
I told you that's a problem, Brian. You need to cut
It is a
back.
habit I need to break.
Yeah. But essentially, you know what, Brian? I actually have another reason that I think we haven't done any flow shows lately, and frankly, I blame you. It's
Me?
your fault. Yeah, it's
Why?
entirely your fault.
What didn't you do?
Because you have come up with all these other things to talk about. We had to have variety. We had to have a change of pace. We had to have things that were different for listeners so they didn't have to listen to the same thing every time. What the hell, Brian? What is your deal? Why do we have to... I don't even know anymore, man. I just
Mark,
don't even know.
You're the one that told me we had to have different topics. Otherwise, we would be 100% all about flow all the time.
Nope, that's not true. Phew! Glad I won that argument. Okay, so we're going to talk about flow today. How's flow been for you lately, Brian? Let's talk about some of the recent experiences we've had.
I can tell you one just today. Now, it wasn't actually my flow. It was someone, Andy Betcher, a friend of mine up in Minneapolis, reached out to me to ask about flow. He was trying to update contacts that were on an opportunity contact row when an opportunity gets marked as closed one. So he figured this has got to be pretty easy, right? You use Process Builder to pass in the opportunity ID into a flow. You go query all your opportunity contact rows. You loop through them, gather the IDs of each contact that's in the opportunity contact row, and then query all the contacts and do an update, right?
Now I see where this went south.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Can't do a fast lookup based on a collection of IDs.
Yep. So and this is something that I've hit quite a few times. It's the idea of ordinarily you would do this by doing a fast lookup within a loop, which is bad.
Very bad.
Bad. Do not do it. You will hit your limits very fast. There are limits in Flow. There's a 2,000 element limit for any one given runtime, which basically that means that it's the amount of squares you hit. And if you have a loop within a loop, or another lookup within that, then you'll start to either your element count will go up way high, or your SOQL query count will go up way high. They'll start to go up exponentially. Because you've got a limit on that as well.
I mean, this is something.
And what's more,
you could easily do in code. I mean, it's a common thing that gets done. So the fact that you can't do it with Flow, which is supposed to be this declarative coding type platform, can be very frustrating.
And what's more, if you're running this as a result of kicking something off of a process builder, any SOQL queries that are kicked off in the process builder as well, prior to you calling the Flow, also go towards the 100 SOQL query limit.
It sounds like a lot, but it really isn't.
No, it's not. It goes very quickly. So even if your Flow technically would come under, if you're running a process that also does SOQL queries, which they all do, then you're going to hit it. Now, it's going to be faster.
For those people out there, when we are talking SOQL, we're really talking about whenever you look up a record, it's whenever you look up.
Update.
SOQL is a query. You only do SOQL when you look up a record.
Betcher's problem here. What is the solution? The solution is to code it?
Well, I mean, we were going to look at doing like everything we can do declaratively, and then that portion like being invocable Apex. But even that doesn't really work all that well because the way that you're limited to how you can pass things into that invocable Apex. I think I got this multi-Google chat message from him at 7 o'clock today, just ranting and raving, being frustrated. It doesn't work. This doesn't work. Apparently this works. Well, that's just stupid type of thing.
And this is why coders hate Flow, because it can do so much and yet so little for them at the same time. So I mean, that's the thing is anybody I've talked to, almost every single person who is almost exclusively a developer, or maybe like 80% a developer as opposed to like 20% admin time, they hate Flow. They do not like it.
Well, but that's because they're not familiar with it, and they know that they do the same things they could write in a handful of code. But that's not the point. I mean,
probably faster for them, yeah.
But the benefits of Flow isn't in the developer's benefit; it's in the maintenance. And once you write the code, a developer typically doesn't care too much about it. I'm not saying that they don't care, but I'm saying in the grand scheme of things, right?
It's a bigger
their job
thing
is done
to go
until
back.
they have to go update it themselves.
Yeah.
And it's code. That's what they're familiar with. The sad thing is I'm pretty sure that we could have done this type of functionality with Process Builder by chaining processes together or doing an invocable process or something, but opportunity contact roles is not a first-class item, so you cannot run a process based on an opportunity contact role being modified.
Now, generally speaking, sometimes it is possible in situations like this, rather than putting a loop within a loop or things like that, sometimes it's possible to get the information ahead of time if you're really aware of the criteria. But at the end of the day, what Flow needs that it doesn't have is the ability to find things in collection variables. The ability to do, like, let's say, a record lookup, where rather than the criteria being where the ID matches a variable, where the ID is found in a collection.
Within a collection, yes.
Yeah, of multiple IDs. And Flow just does not have that now. And until we do, this particular use case and things much like it are going to be dead in the water.
So another recent Flow experience that I had, and this is kind of on my stupidity standpoint, is I had an org that's very heavy using Flow, lots of Flow all over the place, subflows and so forth. And a change occurred where I needed to change who was going to be receiving any fault messages. So, like a good Flow developer, I made sure that all my creates and deletes and lookups had a fault line. Well, what I had done in all these different flows with all these different record creates and fast lookups and everything was I created a fault line to send email element. I didn't create a subflow and just call the subflow over and over again. I used a send email element and copied, paste. Mm-hmm. I had to go through and change 50 send email elements manually.
And I kind of get the feeling, Brian, we're getting pretty heavy in the weeds here. We're anybody who might be new to Flow.
Sitting at my desk.
No. It's we're getting very technical, extremely technical. Is there something we can do about that, Brian? Can we lighten the load? We
could change the subject.
We could change. No. The subject is Flow. You're a terrible person.
And now it's time to thank the sponsors that make this episode possible.
I'm going to go insane again. No, stop. Okay, so...
You know what we did do? We did an intro to Flow.
We did do an intro to Flow.
Yeah, and in that webinar with Jillian Bruce...
But I thought you were going to save that for the undetermined amount of time.
No, that's the video.
Wow, I am really tired.
And it's not in the script anyways.
No, we have no script.
This is why we need scripts. But... what I want to talk about is the use case.
I'm going to edit this episode so hard.
It's a good thing I haven't hit the record button yet. So the use case that we did in our webinar was about submitting Salesforce requests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up now and not waiting for the video into the undetermined amount of time to the next one.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right. is I wanted to talk a little bit more about that use case and expand because I've actually done this flow. And
yeah, we really kind of streamlined it down, didn't we?
Yeah, it was very, very streamlined from what I've used. I mean, the end result when I used it was a case with a whole bunch of information in a description field. So that was the same. What I did differently was I exposed that flow so you didn't have to be a Salesforce user in order to fill it out.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it's something that is going to come up with a lot of people because let's face it, not everyone at a company who's going to need to do something is going to necessarily have Salesforce access. So the way it worked is I created a Visualforce page and I embedded the flow. That's actually...
You said code. You said code.
No, I said I created a Visualforce page and I embedded a flow.
But Brian, isn't that code? Isn't that difficult to do?
And there are tons of examples out there that you can literally copy and paste and simply do something simple like change the name of the flow or the way it's referenced in the Apex and the Visualforce page is interview.
Do we have any examples we can post in the show notes?
Probably, or they could just take a look at thewizardnews.com.
No.
Or do a search for Visualforce and Flow because literally you can copy the sample and paste it into a Visualforce page and just change the name of the flow.
You're asking our listeners to Google things, Brian?
I'm asking them to copy and paste. I have 100% confidence that our listeners
are capable
able
of
to do this.
typing.
My mother can Google. Hi, Mom. And I know she's listening to this because she'll occasionally send me messages that says, "Ooh, new WizardCast." I have no idea why she likes listening to this show other than it's me. But thanks, Mom,
Because you
for
don't
being
call
one
her.
of our 3 listeners.
It's the only time she gets to hear your voice. You're a terrible son.
You can copy and paste it, and then from there, what you have to do is you create what's called a site. Do you remember sites, Mark? Did you ever create a public site?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's a free
It's not
feature.
a site.com, it's a site.
It's a free feature of Enterprise and above, and it's insanely easy to create. I mean, the hardest is what are you going to name it? Because it does need to be unique. And then you simply add that Visualforce page to the site, which is edit button, add page. I mean, it's ridiculously easy.
No, it's easy to set up if you have a set of instructions. Personally, I did have a bit of issues because of all the guest stuff. If you don't have the guest access set up,
and that's actually
the
the hardest part. Is there is a guest profile that gets created, but the only way to edit it is through the site. There will be a button to click to edit the profile.
Yeah.
So, but I do have a blog page that I wrote way back when I first did it. It walks through the steps, but it is a very cool thing to be able to do, to be able to basically put any flow that you have and allow people to fill it out. For example, you could create a flow that is basically a survey and then save the answers in any sort of way and in any record that you want to, as long as you can give them access through as a public site, which for the most part you can.
Public site. No login required.
Yep, no login required. All they need is the URL and off they go.
So other things we could do with this particular use case, theoretically, you could superpower it if you really wanted and make it so that it doesn't just create a case, but it creates the user record as well. Maybe just a shell of it, and you could finalize the data. That's something else you could do, right? You could make tasks to follow up with a case, or tasks for other people. Let's say as part of the new user allocation, somebody else in another department also needs to do some work. So you can have a task generated for that person to go and do that additional work. Team. Yep. Something we didn't do. Post a chatter. Welcome so-and-so to the company. Welcome to the WizardCast. Could also, we didn't put any faults on it in the demo. We didn't have time.
No.
So that's something Brian mentioned earlier. Be sure that you do set up some sort of fault line.
I really wanted to show it to you people, but Mark insisted that we didn't have time.
We didn't have time. We were at time when we finished, so it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, Brian.
Yeah,
but it is what it is.
It's tough when you talk at the pace that you do.
Yeah, at a clear and concise pace that people understand, as opposed to. Okay.
Excuse me. What?
Yep. No, it's fine. I'll continue on without you. You can go back to sleep.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. What else did you talk about? Oh.
You can't tell me, go back to sleep and then start asking me questions. That's just rude.
I told you I'm tired.
Of course, that's how I got my big screen TV. Is I waited for my wife to get sleepy and say, "Andrew, I would like to buy a TV. Is that okay?" That worked.
And how did that work out for you in the long run?
I still have the TV.
And
my wife.
But what else do you not have? Your pride?
Oh, I haven't had pride in a long time.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it then. Yeah, because when we were building that flow, I was like, oh man, there's so much we could do with this, and we just don't have time.
30 minutes is tough.
Submit for approvals.
Oh yeah.
You could do. So you're gonna actually make an approval process that somebody has to approve the user request. Can actually do the submit for approval there in flow as well. Another possibility. Let's say, because this is new. This is summer 17. This is not out yet, but this is coming. Let's say that the person putting in the request, right, does not have the ability to create users, right? But then they run this flow that, it creates the case, but it also creates the user. Well, that would,
if only you could temporarily give them permission to do so, and then revoke it when the flow was done. And
it just so happens that in summer 17, that is coming. Thank God. It's the ability to temporarily assign a permission set for the duration of the flow. It's I so freaking happy that this is actually
All right.
entering in.
So if we're going to talk about Summer 17 features already, in a show that's not focused on Summer 17.
I don't care. It's the Flow show.
What about being able to call Flow from the Lightning utility bar? So for those of you who are not on Lightning Experience yet, there's the utility bar, which is basically on the bottom. It's where recent items are. You can do the notes and stuff like that.
So what you might have seen it in is console, because in Classic it was in console. It was this little bar at the bottom that stayed there all the time.
All the time.
In Lightning, you can have that utility bar set up, that bar down at the bottom, all the time, even if you're not in console.
Which means you can have a flow that launches anywhere within Salesforce as long as that utility bar is visible. The thing of it is, there's no reference point, so you wouldn't be able to say pass in information from a particular record into this flow.
Yes, it cannot recognize what page you are on. It has no contextual information or reference point. You can pass in variables to your flow, but you're going to be passing in the same variable every
static
time.
Yeah, same value all the time.
Can't even get the running user of the flow. It's
right.
It can't do it.
Which means, it might be an okay for our Salesforce request flow, because then they can ask where in Salesforce. But I've been trying to think of what other use cases would I want to put on the utility bar where you don't have context-sensitive data.
Well, it would have to be kind of like the idea of putting in a ticket, putting in a request. Something that is non-specific can be done anywhere. Maybe it's making a task for somebody. You don't need to do that from anywhere, right? So you could actually say subject, assignee, and description. Boom. So little forms. Essentially anything you would need for just a little form.
But why Flowbush is a quick action?
Can you do quick actions in the utility bar?
I don't know if you can do it in the utility bar, but I mean,
the
task example is a global action. I mean,
you
can have that on every single page.
Except list views, reports, dashboards.
But, why would you create a task there?
Maybe that's the particular, workflow, the actual flow of work for that company, is that they need to be some executive is going to be looking at reports and dashboards and needs to do some communications or task assignments to people while looking at that data.
Okay.
I mean, I'm coming up with wild and crazy stuff here, but frankly, I've worked in companies that the requesters, the stakeholders, they come up with wild and crazy stuff. Hey, can you possibly set that up to come? Oh, that's pretty wild. It happens. And frankly, a lot of users are going to look at something like the utility bar and they will get ideas we have never thought of.
So if you have ideas of what type of flows would be great for the utility bar, let us know. Tweet us at Quangerific or @MarkRoss__C.
Hashtag utility bar flows YOLO 2017.
Yeah, we're never going to get that hashtag. Or post a comment to the show notes at thewizardnews.com or send us an email at wizardcast@thewizardnews.com.
So what else do we have in the Summer 17 release?
I don't know, Mark. Why don't you go Google that right now?
I'm doing it right now because you know what? I can type.
You heard it here first, folks. Mark can type.
Launch flows in Lightning Runtime from buttons, links, and custom tabs. Oh, wait, that's Lightning Runtime. Well, let's talk a bit about Lightning Runtime.
What's Lightning Runtime?
You know what Lightning Runtime is?
Is that when Lightning runs on time?
No. For
like
Flow,
a bus system?
No. For Flow.
Train? Choo-choo.
No. Brian, stay with me here. Lightning Runtime, when it comes to Flow, don't hurt yourself. Blink, yes. Lightning Runtime, when it comes to Flow, is the look and feel. It's the CSS. It's the styling of the flow so that it looks like Lightning. It's using SLDS, the Salesforce Lightning Design System, rather than the look and feel of Classic. So it looks a lot better. That's what Lightning Runtime is. It's not anything terribly complicated. For now, I've kind of seen some things that lead me to believe that Lightning runtime is going to be a requirement for future functionality that's coming down the pike that we haven't seen yet. I didn't say what, and I might be wrong. This is entirely supposition on my part. There's nothing that has actually been told to me that Lightning runtime is going to be required for anything like this. But essentially, it's just the ability to have the look and feel of Lightning in your flows now, so they don't look like ugly white pages with ugly black text with ugly fonts and bad spacing. So no, and the thing is, when certain flows in Lightning, when you ran them, even if you had Lightning runtime on, they wouldn't work in Lightning runtime. Things like when they were called from a button or a link, it didn't actually run well. We also now have the ability with flows that are using Lightning runtime to use Rhett URL. Yay!
Oh, that is... Rhett URL is basically a way to direct a user to another page location as long as that page location existed before the flow was launched. So you couldn't like send them to a record that you created within the flow, but you could send them to a record that already existed before the flow launched.
What else do we have?
You're the one with the notes up.
There's a pilot that's going to be starting on summer 17. This is where it gets good. This is where the good stuff is, people.
But it's a pilot.
It is a pilot, but it's so good.
It's not even a beta.
Dynamically update flow screen fields.
And I have a screen with 5 fields on it, and based on a user filling out one of those fields, I expose 7 more fields without the user having to click on the next button.
Precisely. So the example given in the release notes is radio buttons for call me, text me, and email me. If call me is selected, then the field for phone number shows up. If email me is selected, email address shows up, and the phone number is gone.
So theoretically, we could have done our Salesforce request all on a single screen by just showing different fields based on the dropdown that the person selected instead of requiring them to click.
Exactly. And that's a pilot that'll be in summer 17. Generally speaking, if you want to sign up for a pilot, you have to contact your Salesforce AE, aka sales rep, and they can probably hook you up.
Do it quickly. You got to do it quickly because those pilots fill up really quickly, and it's really at the discretion of the product manager. Also,
keep in mind it is a pilot. It's not even beta, so don't
it
really
may not
depend on
work.
It
may not be the final feature. It may change dramatically. You know, it may no longer be called the same thing or work the same way. Flow triggers.
Yeah, flow triggers. Oh, God.
Hey, maybe that was our sponsor today from Flow Triggers.
I'm having visions.
Shaking your head does not work well in an audio format.
I'm having visions of chthonic influence and invasions into your brain, corrupting your mind and driving you insane.
Would anyone notice?
Probably not until you had the tentacle coming out of your nose. So we have also
that was nose hair.
Do we know what's coming down the road? What can we talk? Is there anything we can talk about? What did Shelley, before she went off and joined Salesforce.org, what did Scott?
Hi, Shelley.
We love you.
Well, Scott told us a lot of things, and some of it he told us on this podcast. You should go listen to our history.
That's true. That's true. We did have an episode with Scott Koshenik.
And
did I get that right? Koshenik? Scott Kaz.
Yes, that's exactly what I did. And we're going to try to get Scott on again for an update.
Yeah, hopefully.
But there's a lot of stuff coming sometime, and I don't know if it's really worth talking about right now until we get more concrete information on the dates.
You do know the Flow Builder is going to be remade?
It has to be because it's on Flash, and Flash is going away. And as a matter of fact, Flash is already gone in a lot of places.
The question is whether or not there's going to be more of a redesign as opposed to a rebuild, and this we do not know. It's just a matter of waiting and see what comes out. And frankly, I'm guessing we're going to hear something about it at Dreamforce.
If you had a say in the Flow Designer being completely rebuilt, what one feature would you want to see in Flow that's not there now?
Snap to grid.
Okay, that was like the biggest softball I could have ever sent to you.
I want my flows to have straight lines.
Yeah, that's your
With their
OCD
arrows.
talking about. I could have
My eyes
completely
twitching.
messed with Mark on the webinar by just keeping everything really crooked, but it drives me nuts too. Snap to grid, or at least having a grid there would be nice.
I gave Scott a very long list of things that I would like to see in Flow, and some of them are on the builder level, some of them are on the back end level.
Yeah,
and
we both did. I mean,
today.
For me, I would like to see more things to make things organizationally easier to see on it visually, because right now, white background with a whole bunch of boxes where your text is fairly small and it's gray. It doesn't really give you a whole lot of information on what's going on, especially if you want to be able to collect a whole bunch of elements together to be able to say, hey, this group does this. Like think annotation directly within the designer. Because if I write code, I can write comments. I can't do that without in the flow. At best, I could put descriptions, which still requires you to open every element, and that's just a pain.
Something else, actually, this is a big one from my list that I gave to him, is actually, now I'm going to build on the one you just said. You said comments. I'd like the ability to draw on the flow design.
Annotate. Yeah.
Yeah, and not just text. Like actually, put bounding boxes around things.
Well, yeah, right? I asked him to be able to do things like be able to shade in portions of it, so I can say, hey, this green area does this blue area does this red area does that.
But no, a very big one that I need is the ability to have a true lookup in a flow screen, not a text
with
field.
The little magnifying glass.
Yes, an actual magnifying glass lookup, not a text which I then have to run and verify that somebody didn't spell it wrong, which they probably did because people spell things wrong all the time. We need true lookups in Flow. We need them desperately. I honestly do not understand for the life of me why it wasn't in there from the start. It's needed to be from day one in order to be a true enterprise level solution.
Well, a true enterprise level Salesforce solution. Because remember, Flow didn't originate with Salesforce.
That's true. That's true. And that's probably why. That's probably why, it'd be the concept of some of these Salesforce inherent things, like very specifically the idea of the lookup icon and its functionality. But it's very, very, very important. I think we've exhausted ourselves of the topic and physically and mentally at the same time.
But I do want to thank what was the
1370-ish.
1370 people who showed up, and the almost 3,000 people who registered for that webinar.
Over 3,000.
Yeah, who hopefully watched the recording, because I think it's pretty cool. Thank you very much. Welcome to the halls of the Flownatics. For those of you who are not familiar with that, the Flownatics is basically a guild / cult / sub-organization that Mark and I created a few Dreamforces ago to celebrate those who are true fans of Flow.
No, Brian. We are not a cult. We are not a cult.
The robes and the hood says otherwise.
No. No cult actually thinks of themselves as a cult. I'm sorry.
Okay, so therefore we're not a cult.
Right.
Anyways, that's not what the product managers told me. But anyways, we celebrate all things with Flow. We even have our own codex, which is a series of codes and best practices that is constantly being added to. We did a session on that in Dreamforce, which is still out there. Why are you looking at me like that?
Nothing. I love how you're treating this like a real thing that actually exists.
It is a real thing. People bring it up. People bring it up to me all the time. We had a Flownatics reunion at Dreamforce as we were recording one of our podcasts.
Yep. Okay. Do we have the creed still?
We do have the creed because it is a leather-bound book that I hold very dearly.
No, not that. The creed.
The actual oath.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Recite the oath, brother.
You're gonna make me. I think it's on a different PC.
Some Flownatic you are.
Flow code. Here it is.
The flow code. That was it. Yeah. The flow code.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that was the name of the session. Oh, that's just the abstract.
Yes, listeners, please stand. Unless you're driving.
Everyone, please stand. If you're driving, you should pull over and stand because this is kind of like the Pledge of Allegiance, the star-spangled banner. My God,
You don't even know what you're talking about.
This is a holy of holies. So pull over, stand up, hands in the air as if you're, pledging, because you are pledging, and repeat after me. I, my name.
I, my name.
Pledge to uphold the values.
Pledge to uphold the values.
And the best practices of the Flonatics.
And the best practices of the Flonatics.
I solemnly swear upon the pain of apex.
I solemnly swear upon the pain of apex. That's what you said.
Do you want to keep doing this, or do you want me to restart this?
No, I want you to keep going. This is fantastic.
To share and spread the good word of the Flonatics.
To share and spread the good word of the Flonatics.
To all who will listen, and especially to those who don't.
To all who will listen, and especially to those who don't.
I shall forever hold flow.
I shall forever hold flow.
As my primary starting element deep in my heart.
As my primary starting element deep in my heart.
Mind.
Soul.
And web browser. I shall never underestimate the power of the flow.
I shall never underestimate the power of the flow.
I shall forever remain flow-ficient.
I shall forever remain flow-ficient.
May the flow be with us, always.
And also with you.
Actually, I believe it's been changed recently, too, and with your spirit.
Has it? Really? Is that a thing?
Yeah, 3-4 years ago, the Catholic Church changed
those old books don't count. It's the expanded universe of the Star Wars. They don't count anymore. It's sad, but it's a thing.
I was talking about the Roman Catholic Church, not Star Wars.
Oh, why?
Anyways, that's Flonatics Pledge. We have a number of different creeds. Mark, do you remember how many different codexes we have? I know we have at least 1,392. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to say that it's at least 1,392.
That's based because on the last slide.
Right.
Not that we had 1,392 slides, but
that would be very long. Yes. No, they're like the Ferengi rules of acquisition. We just kind of insert them in as we go something.
Such a nerd.
What?
And if you didn't see the webinar, you can go find it at the wizardnews.com. We'll post it in our show notes. Watch it. Tell us what you think. What else would you like us to see? If you liked it and you actually want to see more videos, you can do a couple things. One, you can go to bit.ly/wizardapprentice-flow with a capital W, A, and F, and that will take you to my YouTube series where I start with simple concepts and progressively get more complicated. Or you could just type Wizard Apprentice and Kwong and Google, it gets the same thing. You can also take a look at the hands-on training session that Mark and I did back in Dreamforce 15. The URL, which I will also put in the show notes, has a link to a whole bunch of hands-on training that were hosted by MVPs at Dreamforce and are available to you free. Alternatively, you can also buy a package that includes all the haunts from Dreamforce 15 on that site. But if you go and do a search for SFU, hands-on training sessions, and DF15, you should be able to find that in Google if you don't want to go to our show notes.
Are you done with your shameless self-promotion, Brian?
That's not self-promotion. That was promoting something that the Salesforce University has.
Sure. And if you're at Texas Dreamin', actually, this coming May 11th and 12th, I will actually be presenting on the Flonatics Guide on when not to use Flow. Actually, a little bit different take than what we normally talk about. Specifically talking about things like the use case that poor Mr. Andy Betcher came across and other data restrictions and issues that people have. Sometimes, frankly, Flow is not the solution.
Poor Andy Betcher. Oh, I'm sorry. All I can hear is poor Professor Hill from My Fair Lady and replacing it with Andy Betcher, but that doesn't sound very good.
No, it doesn't really. Yeah.
WizardCast is produced by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, directed by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, technical administration by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, script writing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, audio editing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, website maintenance by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross. Brian, don't forget to put something here. It would be funny. And our intern this episode was the late Mike Kelly. Oh, what happened to Mike anyways, Mark?
choked on a pretzel. Send us your interview suggestions, jokes, videos, tips, and feedback to wizardcast@thewizardnews.com or head over to thewizardnews.com and click Contact WizardCast.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WizardCast and receive our next episode automatically.
Please post reviews on iTunes and share this episode around. And also, please give us comments and ratings on iTunes. It helps other people find the show.
You know, if we can figure out how we could spread the WizardCast episode around, like that phishing scam with Google Docs, we would have so many hits.
Oh my God, man. It'd be crazy. It would also be very illegal.
Once again, I'm Brian.
And I'm contemplating doing something very illegal.
Mark, you do realize that's recorded, right?
Do you think I could self-incriminate myself with that?
Thanks for listening. You don't play the whole answer the question with the question game very well, do you? That's what you should do instead of the outro music. You should just have me go outro music.
Outro music.